What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. Okay, so I have been talking about how I am trying to max out all of my rewards cards right now, and in going through this, I wanted to take an updated look at where the meta is for me and what cards I would be focusing on if I wasn't focusing on all of them. So obviously I'm trying to max out all the rewards cards, so hopefully I can get that done before the new rewards cards drop. But if you are in a position where you can only focus on one thing, or maybe you're trying to figure out what Splinter to play, I thought it might be fun to actually go through some of these, actually maybe even go through all of them and figure out where are the ones that I would be focusing on if, knowing what I know today, essentially. So I'm going to start from the top down. We're going to go ahead and go with the legendaries. And so oddly enough, of the three legendaries, the one that I use the most by far and away is not Jin O'Shaughnessy. Surprisingly, I don't use Jin O'Shaughnessy as much anymore because Kelia seems to be very, very powerful with a lot of the melee monsters, and I've talked a lot about that previously. So Jin O'Shaughnessy is great, love him as a void tank, but I just have not been using him as much as I use Heartclaw. And so if you are leveling up into the higher levels, Heartclaw, who's going for $1.68 right now, is really one of my favorite cards. Now, at a level 2, and this is probably why I use him so much, you get immunity. So you get immunity and shield for a pretty good tank, pretty solid tank, 8 mana, and for any of those poison games, he comes in super handy. Now, at level 3, which is where I have mine currently, and this would be for gold, you get Demoralize, which is awesome. I use it. I love using him, and I love playing Death in any kind of like melee only. I think it's called Up Close and Personal. But really, I mean, Death is just fun to do any kind of debuff with. So pairing him up with like another card like Riftwing, for example, which is has Headwind, so it's -1 ranged attack, I feel like I can do a lot. So I almost always play or try to play the trifecta of Thaddeus Brood, who is the Death Summoner, who gives -1 magic, Heartclaw, who gives Demoralize, which is -1 melee, and then Riftwing, who gives Headwinds -1 ranged. And I'll use either all three of them or a combination of the three of them into some kind of mix, which makes Death actually a lot of fun for me to play with. So oddly enough, wanted to start here. It's not Jin O'Shaughnessy, even though I have a bunch of Jin O'Shaughnessy's. I'm just not using him as much, even at the higher levels. Now, with Jin O'Shaughnessy, you do get Force Field at level 3. Again, that comes in kind of handy, but for the most part, Void and Phase are pretty good. And I'm not saying I never use him. I'm just saying that at this point in time, with where the meta is right now, I really like playing with Heartclaw. And again, I'm playing at gold, so take this with a grain of salt. But my hope is that everybody will be trying to get to gold and will be at gold once modern format and the lower CP requirements are out. So that's all I have for the legendaries. Sorry, Jin Biljka, there's just not much here. I mean, you're great, and it's sometimes in reverse speed rule sets I use you, but it's really not that often. All right, going down to the epics. Now, had you asked me a couple of months ago, I would have said Jin Chihuahua, by far and away, is one of my favorite cards. Fantastic tank for just being in bronze. You get thorns, but now there's a lot of other monsters out there that have thorns. And so I just haven't been playing this card as much with Dragon because there's things like Carnage Titan and Desert Dragon. There's a lot of other really cool options. Now, Jin Chihuahua is still great, but comes in only in very like unique rule sets for me. The card that I use the most, by far and away, which shouldn't be surprising, is the neutral card here, Uraeus. Now, for Uraeus, you get Sneak, obviously, at level 1, and at level 2, so this is still eligible for Bronze. Level 2, you get 3 mana, and 3 mana and 2 damage, 2 melee damage on a sneak attack. Now, where he's become so valuable for me is at level 4. I'm sorry, level 1, 2, 3, 4. At level 4 with poison. Oh, there's level 6. I knew there was a 6th level somewhere. So once I got poison, It was a game changer because now I am just throwing him against the back line. He has a 50% chance of sticking poison, and more often than not, it usually comes in very, very handy. Plus, I like positioning him with what's that? What's the other? Not the other, but the blue card. Oh gosh, I can't. River Hellendale, who gives a +1 melee. So I love throwing him into my blue teams or my water teams where he can get that +1 buff, +1 speed, +1 armor, but then also +1 melee from someone like River Hellendale. So it's been a lot of fun using him literally across the board because a lot of times for 3 mana, especially like Little League games or things like that, you throw him in there. If he gets 1 hit for 2 damage and then is able to stick a poison, that could be the end, right, for a lot of these smaller monsters. So I really like Uraeus, one of my top cards right now. When I was playing in bronze and silver and renting Jotun, Lava Launcher was great, but I don't use Lava Launcher as much anymore. Now, in high mana games where I have to play some kind of fire deck, what I do like is that he gets stun at level 4, so that can come in handy, but again, I rarely use this card. Jin Renova probably is going to be my second most used right now. So if I had to rate all the epics, it's going to be Uraeus, then Jin Renova, and then probably, Lava Launcher and Jin Chihuahua kind of at the bottom together. But the reason I like Jin Renova is because once you get to level 4, again, this is going to be for gold only, you do get triage. So that can come in handy in certain aspects. I actually like using Jin Renova in a lot of poison battles as well, because paired with someone like Uriel who has self-heal and Adelaide Brightwing, who is the legendary life monster, once you get her to level 3, she gets immunity. So having the 3 of them there, one who can self-heal, one who can triage heal, so I keep her in the back line, which would be Jin Renova, and then one who has immunity, kind of has this nice little trifecta of power for a life team that allows them to stay alive a lot longer when poison is raining all over the place. So those would be my top 2. Obviously, Uraeus is going to be the top one there, but I really like Jin Renova as well. All right, so let's move on down the line. We're going to look at the epic cards now. So this one, these are kind of all over the place, but I would say by far and away, the card that I use the most at this point in time is going to be Venari Crystalsmith. Now, Venari Crystalsmith is great just from the get-go because you get a tank heal. But once you get up into the higher levels, especially like level 4, which is for silver, right? So you get this second range damage, which when you pair with General Sloan, gets 3 damage, which is awesome. That's actually phenomenal. And then once you're able to get to level 5, which is going to be for gold, you get a speed of 4, which is fantastic, and you get Dispel at level 6, which is maxed for gold. So overall, really fantastic card for 4 mana. I use it all the time, but that's because I really like playing life. I'm a big fan of General Sloan. Have no idea why she is one of the cheapest or the cheapest summoner, but Venari Crystalsmith is probably by far and away the card that I use the most. Gargoyle Devil sometimes. Venari Wavesmith used to be one of my favorites, but at this point in time, whenever I'm playing a water deck, it's usually very melee heavy and melee focused. So unless I'm playing someone like a Jotun and I want to have that extra protect there, that's the only time I'll play Venari Wavesmith at this point. Kind of sad, just saying. And then I think I made a video on this a while back, but I really like Exploding Rats. Now, Exploding Rats, you need to get to level 5, which is the first level available for gold. But at that point, you get redemption, and then there's very specific rule sets that I use Exploding Rats for. Anytime there is a Melee Mayhem or Super Sneak, anytime there is an Equalizer rule set, and anytime there is a Divine Shield rule set. Those are the times in which I look to use Exploding Rats, and so comes in very handy for situational. But again, the card that I use the most is going to be Venari Crystalsmith. I don't really use Twilight Basilisk as much, although you do get stun at level 5, which is nice. Venari Seedsmith is... I don't really use this card, so I'll be honest. Venari Bonesmith is pretty good. Now, in gold, I have him up to level 6, and at level 4, which is silver, you do get poison. So I like the fact that you get poison there, and then once you get to level 6, you get a speed of 4, as well as 2 life leech damage. So comes in a lot handier than the Life Sapper on the Chaos Legion side. It's like there's these 2 cards that are very, very similar to one another. But for 1 extra mana, I get a faster card with Venari Bonesmith who has poison, and I just like better overall. But again, I don't use him as much. I'll use him in maybe like an equalizer rule set here and there, but for me, it's got to be far and away Venari Crystal Smith, and then probably Exploding Rats. Naga Assassin, I know it's a fantastic card. It's just when I play Dragon, I'm usually going like big and heavy, right? So Naga Assassin will come in handy in certain scenarios, but I just don't play it as often, even though it's just a 2-mana card. Okay, lastly, let's go over the common cards. So of all these cards, the one that I use by far and away the most is going to be Pelacor Conjurer as well as Pelacor Bandit. I guess I got 2 here that I use a lot. Now, Pelacor Conjurer I really like because in silver, so at level 4, you do get Magic Reflect. So it's just a nice 2-mana meat shield that later on becomes a great anti-magic tank. And then you pair with someone like... I'm going to forget his name, but the Amplify monster for Dax Paragon, who has Amplify for life, then all of a sudden you can really do some anti-magic and, pair with someone like Venari Crystal Smith and heal and just keep the meat shield alive. Now, from a game meta perspective, sneak monsters are very strong. And so Pelacor Bandit is one that I use quite a bit. So I have him maxed out for gold, which would be level 8, and dude is extremely fast. So not only does he have flying, he does 3 damage at that level. He has a speed of 6. And then when I buff him up with someone like Kelia, he's got a speed of 7 and is just terrorizing the back line. He also makes a great back tank because of the fact that he's super fast and has flying. And usually if you're going to play him with someone like Kelia, he'll get an additional armor, which should give you, at least an extra turn in case he gets hit. So those 2 are my favorite from this far and away. Now, Pelacor Mercenary is very popular, but I don't have a llama. Now, the reason he's popular is because you get this self-heal at level 6, which is the first level for gold. So similar to how, you see Kron or you see Flesh Golem, this is somebody that you can use with llama for 14 mana, and you're probably going to win most games just due to the fact that it's kind of difficult to defeat at that point in time. He makes for a nice, in gold, he makes for a nice flying tank. So anytime there is a earthquake rule set and I have to use earth, he'll probably be one of the ones that I will go towards. But outside of that, I really don't use him as much as I thought that I would. Now, I like him from, again, none of this financial advice, but from an investment standpoint, I do think he'll probably be one of the more valuable cards. But again, he will only get that once people level him up to gold. So from a single BCX, like if you're renting or just holding, I don't know. I don't know how that'll go in the long run or short to medium run, but in the long run, I do think that this will be a very valuable card to the game meta, especially at the higher levels in the future. Pelacor Deceiver is a card that I wish I used more. I really like the fact that super fast, has flying, and backfire. I have mine at level 8, so flying backfire does 3 damage, 10 health, and a speed of 4, but I'll be honest, I just don't use as much. Venari Heatsmith, never use this guy. Like very, very rarely. It's got to be like I have to be cornered into a situation where I'm using only fire and I need some kind of cheap void armor action here. So he is the Amplify monster for fire, but at the same time, right now, there aren't too many monsters that can take advantage of that for me in terms of Amplify, or like using the Amplify ability, I should say. So it just hasn't been a main focus for me. Now, I'm going to close with Gargoyle Lion, who I will say is surprisingly one that I use a lot more than I thought I would. Now, Gargoyle Lion has been the cheapest card for the longest time, but one thing that I really do appreciate is the fact that at level 5, which is silver, which is the maxed for silver, you get Void. So now not only do you have a flying tank, but you get one that has Void. Now, when I maxed mine to level 8, or when I got mine to level 8, which is maxed for gold, all of a sudden now melee damage is now at 3, speed is still the same, health is still the same at 6, but the fact that it's flying, the fact that it's void, and the fact that it's only 6 mana means that I can use it in a lot of situations or use it as an anti-magic tank in a lot of situations because of the fact that it is relatively cheaper than a lot of the other better tanks out there, as well as neutral. So, there's just a lot of versatility with it. Now, there's other cards that probably will be better in the long run. Things like, I'm trying to think of what his name, Zenith Monk, who has like the self-heal and gets void at later levels too. But again, one of the nice things to have is flying. So again, whenever there's rule sets, so I was just talking about how whenever there's specific rule sets for earthquakes or things like that, I will always consider him if I know that I may be going up against a heavy magic team. So that's all I have for you guys. I wanted to go through all of these because it's been a major focus for me over the last couple of weeks to try and get all of them maxed out before this rewards rework comes into play. So just something to think about as you go along. And I would actually love to hear your comments, which ones you're focusing on. If I kind of, left out a card that you feel I should have shown a little bit more love. But again, I'm just being as honest as I can be about what I am using and what I'm using them for. So hopefully that made sense and this was helpful, or at the very least entertaining. But definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will catch you all in the next video, and I will see you around the game. Take care.